why did you write a book on Adi Shankaracharya and term him the greatest thinker of Hinduism? Why not say that? Why not say it's Madhvacharya? Or why not say that it's like India is a pool, is a home to a pool of thinkers, from strategic thinkers like Kautilya to 19th century greats like Ramakrishna Paramahansa, and say that they're all greatest in their own ways. Why did you pick Shankaracharya?
I do not wish to impose my choice on anyone. And that
Got it.
is precisely the freedom that Hinduism allows. You must understand that as a religion, and particularly with regard to its spirituality, Hinduism is not a prescriptive religion. It does not say that there is only one text, only one God, only one pope, only one church. It is a religion that allows you, within the framework of certain values that are held to be an ineradicable aspect of that religion, gives you the fullest freedom to make your choices, and even allows, to an extent that is unknown to any other religion, the freedom to dissent, the freedom to disagree. As you know, no one less than Amartya Sen, the Nobel laureate, said that there is no other language except Sanskrit which has so much heterodoxy, so much dissent, even heresy.
Hmm.
So, I am not saying that you think he is the greatest thinker. I believe that for the rigor of his thought, for the cerebral energy that he puts in the delineation and structuring of one of the most remarkable schools of Hindu philosophy, which is Advaita. You must be aware that there are 6 systems of Hindu philosophy: the Sankhya, the Yoga, the Nyaya, the Vaisheshik, the Purv Mimansh, and the Uttar Mimansh. Each of them are valid in themselves, backed by great thinkers. Somehow, the most influential from my point of view emerged to be Uttar Mimansh, which is the same as Advaita, which takes its reasoning directly from the Upanishads, which says that ultimately the only reality of this bewildering cosmos is a cosmic, pervading, pulsating consciousness which is attributeless, nirguna. It is adrishta, beyond sight, achintya, beyond thought, akhanda, indivisible. It is purna, complete. It is sarva pratyay darshanin, all knowing. And it is nirvishesh chinmatram, undifferentiated consciousness.
Yes.
And it is this reality which is called Brahm. And there is no other reality except this. Now, it's very important to understand that in almost all of the 6 systems of Hindu philosophy, the search is not for God. I want your audience to understand this, to understand what a remarkable religion Hinduism is. The search is not for divinity. The search is not to define deity. The search is what could be the ultimate truth behind the bewildering plurality of the world in which we live and of this great Brahmand, the cosmos, of which we are not even a tiny speck. And their conclusion based on the deepest meditative and contemplative insights was that reality is Brahm, that pulsating, attributeless consciousness, which cannot be described but which can be experienced with only two defining elements: complete awareness and total bliss, unblemished joy. This is the non dualistic Advaita school, which, although it was first articulated in the Upanishads, you are aware of the Upanishadic Mahavakyas. Tat Tvam Asi. You are not what you think you are. You are that ultimate joy, ultimate bliss, pure consciousness, complete awareness.
Yes.
Tat Tvam Asi. Aham Brahmasmi. I am that Brahm. I am Atma Brahm. The Atma, which is your individual self, and that Brahm are the same. So, drawing inspiration from the Upanishads, Shankaracharya, many centuries later, the Upanishads were a dialogue between students like you and a guru in a forest. All of Hindu religion almost is dialogic. The Bhagavad Gita is a dialogue, the Brahma Sutra is a dialogue, the Upanishads is a dialogue. So, students ask the Guru, what could be that truth? And in those moments of deep meditative insight, they say that alone is the truth. So, Shankaracharya takes this tradition 1800 years, 2000 years later, in the 8th century after the Common Era, and develops it systematically, rigorously, by application of thought. And so, in my view, and you don't have to agree with you, at least in terms of his philosophical depth, he is Hinduism's greatest thinker.
So, like you've mentioned, a major chunk of people practicing Hinduism are not aware of the thought behind the rituals. And because of this, the youngsters these days think that the rituals are meaningless. And due to this, a lot of them have grown to disrespect the religion itself. So, how do you think we can address this, sir?
Anjana, you have asked a very important question. And I think we need to think very carefully about it. First, try to understand that for about 4,000 years, if not more, that is from about 1500 before the Common Era, till 1,000 years after the Common Era and the coming of Islam in our country, there was for 4,000 years a culture and civilization in India or Bharatvarsha, which I broadly categorize as Hindu, although from that Hindu religion arose Buddhism, a great religion unto itself, Jainism, and much later Sikhism. But they are all part of the same dharmic family. So that was Hinduism for 4,000 years. And the great defining characteristic of Hindu religion, culture, and civilization, which you must understand, because I feel bad that so much of our younger generation is unaware. It was an exceptionally cerebral and refined civilization. Not that it had no faults. Every civilization will have a fault. Mesopotamia, Egypt, the Greek civilization, the Chinese civilization. But I think this Hinduism, and I will answer your question by first explaining this, was
Yes, sir.
the remarkable application of mind on almost every aspect of human activity, spirituality, philosophy, metaphysics, politics. You have Kautilya's Earth Shastra.
Yes, sir.
Shringaras, you have the Kama Sutra. You have the Shilpa Shastras, creativity. You have, above all, Bharat's Natya Shastra, which is 6,000 Sanskrit shloks on what is aesthetics, rasa kya hai? How do you experience aesthetic joy? It is not only a compendium of the arts, Bharatnatyam, Odissi, this, that, architecture, sculpture, theatre, dance. It is also a meditation on the aesthetic experience. Now, this was the civilization. If you read the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, which were epics of the same period, there is much to learn in terms of the philosophical debates that went on at that time, including what is dharma. If you see the goals of life, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, all of them, kama is also included. The 4 stages of life. You are aware, Bal, Grihast, Vanprast, Moksha, and so on. So it was a very, very refined civilization where there was application of mind, your young people, on every aspect of human activity. Now, when I see the younger generation, who, when I wrote, for instance, Adi Shankaracharya, did not even know till then which century he was born in. What did he write? Which school of Hindu philosophy he belonged to? What were the Upanishads? What are the 3 foundational texts of Hinduism? I ask you, do you know? So it is regarded that the Upanishads, the Brahma Sutra, and the Bhagavad Gita are the 3 foundational texts of Hinduism. So we don't know so much about our, not only civilization and culture, but our religion. So the younger people go through the rituals, but are often unaware of the deep philosophy underlying this religion, the symbolisms of ritual also. What is Agni? What is Ahuti? People don't know. Not that I am advocating ritual. Not that I am advocating the practice of ritual as a means of exploitation by a Brahmanical class. I am not saying that. We should have priests from all castes. Priests who are learned, not only in ritual, but in philosophy, but in spirituality. Between the great debates that Hinduism has had, great debates. Shankaracharya, since I'm discussing my book, he belonged to the Advaita school. And Mandan Mishra, another intellectual giant, belonged to the Purva Mimansh, which is the Karma Kand school, which was what you're asking.
Yes,
Karma
sir.
Kand says, perform the rituals as prescribed by the Vedas in the proper manner with the right frame of mind, and the very performance of those rituals will take you towards moksha. Shankaracharya disagreed with this approach. His was not the karma kand marg, but the gyan marg, the path of knowledge as the way to moksha. You must be aware there are other paths. Bhakti later became a very major path. Just surrender, prapatti to the Almighty. That also leads to salvation. But Shankaracharya disagreed with Mandan Mishra. He didn't go and kill him. He didn't beat him up. He didn't abuse him. He went to him and said, let's have a debate. What is called a Shastrartha, a Sabhya Samvad, a civilized discourse. And they had it for days. And amazingly, when asked who should be the umpire, Shankaracharya had enough faith in the intellectual integrity of his intellectual opponent, Mandan Mishra, that he said, your wife can be the umpire. That's the remarkable nature of your culture and civilization. I'm talking of Hinduism. So it's very important for some of the young. I know you are all busy with your life, your career, the challenges. But somewhere, although Hinduism does not require you necessarily to go to church every Sunday or to be part of a Friday congregation or to say namaz 5 times a day, it does not require. But still, I feel sorry not for Hinduism. I feel sorry for those who have not opened the window also of this great treasury. It's your loss.
Question. Sir, in Bhajagovindam, Adi Shankaracharya said, Samprapte Sannihite Kale Nahini Rakshite Dukram Karna. And he also said, Parame Brahmani Kopina Sakta. So he was making a critique, a comment on the spiritual ignorance of the intelligentsia as well as the commoners of his time. So I think that India is suffering from the very same weakness right now. And what, in your opinion, should we do?
No, I think the government should at least provide in the educational curriculum those aspects of Hindu culture and civilization, including philosophy, not necessarily ritual, which are eternal and universal, which have been recognized. For instance, if you say that there is a nirguna consciousness in you and in me, and that does not differentiate between you and me because we are all part of that. It will not only lead to genuine reform within Hinduism, such as, for instance, some of the discriminatory hierarchies imposed by the caste system. It will also be a universal message for everyone, irrespective of religion. So there are some truths, some knowledge, some basic knowledge. Do you know how much of it we have lost? And it's not coincident. Even the Arthashastra was lost till the 20th century. No one had a copy. It was discovered by chance in a farmer's house in Kerala. We've lost so much of our tradition. It didn't happen like that with other civilizations, for instance, Greek civilization. So, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. The world knew of them, then knew of them, now studied them. Manuscripts are kept. Reason? When Greece was captured by Rome, the Romans were greatly influenced by Greek philosophy and adopted it. And from the Romans, the rest of Europe adopted it. It didn't happen like that with us. Initially, and I'm not excavating the past to sow animosity or acrimony today. No. But when essentially Islamic conquest took place, it was a very violent and destructive process. The syncretism, the Ganga Jamuni Tehzeeb happened much later, over hundreds of years. Initially, it was destruction. Hundreds of temples were destroyed, which were repositories of learning. Entire libraries were burned down. I mean, when Nalanda was burned down by Bakhtiyar Khilji, they say it burnt for over a year. It was so rich in manuscripts. So a lot of we were not as lucky as the Greeks. Then when the British came later, they, in order to justify their divine right to rule over the natives, had to first decry, criticize, devalue the culture of those whom they ruled. To say that we have brought to you the new culture of progress, modernity, science, rationality. To justify their colonial rule, they rubbished the past. After 1947, unfortunately, in the name of secularism, and secularism is important, but using its name very often, even to refer to our Hindu past, was considered communal. Oh, he's trying to glorify the past. Don't over glorify. At least know some of it. So, now I've forgotten what your exact question was. I was talking about it.
My question was, what
Yeah,
steps should we take to
broadly,
make people more spiritual?
you see, you can take a horse to the water trough, but you can't make him or her drink it. Anything the government does can only do that much. Ultimately, Hindus themselves must have within them something very critical in Hinduism called jigyasa, curiosity, mutsva, desire to know more about their culture and civilization. They live on the surface. Their knowledge is superficial. They may be global citizens, but they are not culturally rooted. So they become photocopies of others. And great civilizations don't become photocopies.
Yes, exactly.
They interact with the world with equality, not with chauvinism, not with xenophobia that I am the best, but they interact with equality on the basis of their own cultural rootedness, not as clones of the other civilization, not merely by their knowledge of speaking relatively fluent English. I am not against English.
Yes,
I myself went to St. Columbus, St. Xavier, St. Stephen's. That's not the issue. But you must know your language. You must know your culture. And the government can do so much, but Hindus themselves, after centuries of this kind of, which I just mentioned to you, coming of Islam, the coming of the British, the government's own attitude towards the past, the attempt to define modernity only in Western terms.
exactly.
So it has led to people like you who are asking me this question. What can the government do? I ask you, what are you doing yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Kashupati. So my next question to you is
Provocative
that,
questions.
sorry,
Ask
sir,
me provocative questions.
I couldn't hear you.
Ask me difficult questions.
Provocative.
Yes, sir. So, okay, I hope this one is difficult, the next one. What are some of the lessons that the members of the ruling party as well as the members from opposition should pick up from our Indian philosophy?
You know, the one thing that is the calling card of India is that it is a country which, in spite of the vicissitudes of history, is a land of many faiths. I don't believe in the word dharm nirpeksh for secular. How can we do without dharma, which has a dual meaning in Hinduism? One is religion, one is correct action. But I can speak of panth nirpeksh, beyond secular state. We are a land of many faiths. Anjana, four of the great religions of the world were born in India. Can you tell me what they were?
Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and
Sikhism.
Sikhism, sorry. Just took my mind.
So, four of them were born on this soil. Islam came, and we have among the largest adherents of that faith in our country. Even our Christian population, which is roughly 2.5% of the entire population, is numerically more than the combined population of Hungary and Greece. So we are a land of, so what I would like our politicians to learn is genuine respect for all faiths and appeasement of none. You cannot make religion a subject of vote bank politics, whether in the use of the minorities or of the majority. And I think this is what our politicians should learn. Also, let our politicians also reduce their ignorance. Know a little more. What did Mahatma Gandhi do? There's a big difference between Mahatma Gandhi and Jawaharlal Nehru. I respect both greatly. Jawaharlal Nehru said he's an agnostic. And therefore he considered religions to be mostly a compound of superstition and prejudice and ritual, or a means of exploitation. What did Mahatma Gandhi do? He was a devout Hindu.
Yeah.
But he went deeply into all faiths: Christianity, Islam, Zoroastrianism, Sikhism. And having gone deeply into their own faith, and especially Hinduism, he once said that take away all my spiritual corpus, the Upanishad, everything, take it away. Just leave me one shlok from the Isha Upanishad. Purnamida, Purnamidim, Purnat Purnmaduchte. Purnasya Purnmadai Purnameva Vashishyate. Just leave me this whole notion of infinity. This is full, that is full. From fullness comes. Fullness taken away from fullness, and fullness still remains. He was very knowledgeable. He went deep into all the faiths. And from that he came up with his inference that we must respect all faiths. Not as a slogan, not as a politically opportunism, not as expediency, but because he felt that although faiths differ, there is something to respect in all, because essentially he was moved by his own faith. What does Hinduism say? Again, a line from the Upanishad. Ekam Satya. Vipraha bahuda vadanti. There is one truth. Wise people call it by different names. Ano bhadraha kritavo yantu vishvata. Let good thoughts flow to me from all directions. Udara charitanam vasudhaiva kutumbukam. For the big-hearted, the entire world is your family. So as a good Hindu, and as someone who had taken the trouble to deeply study all religions, he believed that it is in the interests of India and in conformity with his and his foundational culture, which was Hinduism. It was for him essential to respect all faiths. I think our politicians need to take that trouble.
Thank you, sir. So now I would like to invite Kaustav to move to the audience now.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for all the answers that you have given. Actually, we do have a good number of questions that the audience would like to ask. So I'll be asking those questions to you. So the first question has been asked by Vardhan Nair, whose question is, sir, according to you, what is the modern interpretation of moksha?
Ultimately, moksha is not something you get in heaven. Again, I can only speak as a Hindu. I cannot say what is moksha in Islam or Christianity, where there is a heaven, by the way. In Hinduism, at least in the philosophical sense, it is understood that moksha is that state of ultimate awareness and knowledge where you are freed from the shackles of the transient, the impermanent, the unstable, and the passing. Therefore, the moment you realize that the world around you, of which you are a part, is the world, but it is also a creation of your ego and your mind, what is called in our philosophy as the prapanch of the mind, all the networks it builds. And it is entirely transient, but beyond that, there is a higher reality, which I am a part of. And that reality is called bliss. Sat Chidanand, Satchidanand. Bliss and awareness. The moment you experience that bliss, you have achieved moksha. You don't have to die and go to heaven. And there are people I know who live with that moksha, who are of this world. But they are in a permanent state of glorious fulfillment. They have transcended the ego. They are fulfilled in themselves, joyously happy. That is moksha.
Thank you, sir. With this, we will move forward to our next question. Next question is by Deepika Golatkar. Her question is, would you elaborate the fine use of religion in politics by Gandhi?
The what use? Sorry?
Would you elaborate the fine use of religion in politics by Gandhi?
You see, I just explained this at length in my earlier answer. Gandhiji did not believe that the meaning of secularism was to exclude religion. So the ennobling the great traditions of religion, particularly in terms of right conduct, must be part of the secular realm. Dharma, Raj Dharma. They must inform our actions. And remember one thing, at least once again speaking in terms of Hinduism, even the absolute ruler was not absolute as per the Arthashastra. There was one thing greater than him. That was dharma. Not religion, but the need to follow a conduct which was befitting for the power the monarch held in order to work for the well-being of the people he ruled. There was something greater than absolute powers. So, Gandhiji's message would be, use this to inform your political arena to conform to standards of conduct, of interaction, of behavior, of ethics, of distinguishing right from wrong. And do this with the knowledge of religions, so that you learn to respect all faiths.
Okay, sir. So we have one more question from Deepika Goladkar. She has asked, do you think that today the youth is driven away by wrong agendas only because of the lack of knowledge of Hinduism?
You see, if Anjana and Kostav and others, who are the others? Isha was there, and P stands for?
So, Pashupati, sir. Pashupati.
Pashupati himself.
Yes, sir.
So Pashupati, if you don't know about Hinduism, then somebody will speak on your behalf.
Yes.
People can hijack your faith.
Yes.
For instance, of course, just now the paperback of Adi Shankaracharya has come out. But, here it is. My latest book after that is a book called The Ramcharitmanas, Tulsidas on Ram. So, if you don't know, what is Maryada Purushottam? In the Tulsidas' Ramcharitmanas, written in the 16th century, a great literary classic in Awadhi, the language of the masses, Ram says to his younger brother Bharat, Parhit saris dharam nahi bhai. Parhit saris dharam nahi bhai. Par peeda sam nahi athmai. There is no greater dharma than the welfare of others. And there is no greater sin than injury to others. So as Maryada Purushottam Ram was not a passive god. He took up arms against injustice. He fought Ravan. But even where he fights what he considers to be the cause of justice, he will fight it in a manner which is congruent, which is within the framework of Maryada Purushottam. He will not be vengeful without reason. He will not be angry irrationally. He will not use violence where it is not required. He will not take the law into his own hands. He will not be abusive. You have to understand, you see, why a character like Ram has become, as they say about Ramcharitmanas, Dr. Vincent Smith said it's the Bible of the masses. Why? When Ram goes to meet Kaikeyi. Now, Kaikeyi has conspired, as you know, to banish Ram for 14 years, deprived of him of his throne. Ram goes to meet Kaikeyi. What does he tell Kaikeyi? He doesn't take his chappals and beat her, although he has reason to be angry. He says, Sun Janani Soi Sut Bada Bhagi. O mother, that child is blessed. Sun Janani Soi Sut Bada Bhagi Jo Pitumat Bachan Anuragi, who has the opportunity to follow with love what his or her parents say. Now it can be interpreted in modern times that he was a wimp. He could not take a stand. He didn't beat up his stepmother. He didn't fight with her. But then you cannot use the name of Ram, weaponize Jai Shri Ram, lynch people shouting the slogan. That is not what Hinduism requires. Hinduism requires a new revolution based on knowledge, based on genuine pride of a great in civilization, but not superficial anger.
Mr. Varma, the first thing that I wanted to say was that when we advertised your webinar, we mistakenly called you a person who is an Indian diplomat and member of Rajya Sabha and whatnot, when we should have prominently said that here is a very knowledgeable scholar of all the Hindu scriptures who would be telling you about what Hinduism is all about. And that is something which I just learned from you, and it was wonderful to know this. And sir, I wanted to say one more thing, that somebody who is as knowledgeable, when he comes in the field of politics, I think that makes a huge difference also, because it gives meaning to the entire Rajya Niti Shastra, because that is something which is very much missing as far as India is concerned. So you have like the Chanakya Niti, you have the Vidur Niti, you have the Bhishma Parva in Mahabharata. So you have so many commentaries on political science which the Indian scriptures have given and which are like absolutely fantastic, but there are very few people who are aware of the kind of meaning that has been given to Rajya Niti Shastra as far as India is concerned. So if we have people like you who can be guiding others about what we are all about, when they say, please introduce me to myself, this is almost like that, that yeah, this is India and this is us, and we do not know ourselves. So it is so nice to see someone who is so knowledgeable and who is also in the political life at the same time. And it was so nice of you to come and guide our students also about these things, because it was so beautiful to go from Ishopanishad to Bhagavad Gita to all types of different Upanishads and trying to understand up to Gandhism as to what he represented when he became a political leader, and how his entire involvement of religion actually enriched the entire freedom movement rather than impoverished it. So this entire thing is something that you brought out very, very nicely, and thanks a lot, because frankly speaking, I myself was not expecting it to be such a deep knowledge of Hinduism that we would be getting from this lecture, and it was a fantastic experience. So
Thank you so much,
very
Dr.
much.
Parekh. I am not a guide, but I've been in so many professions. But I'll say to you, for your students,
Yes.
I would be more than happy if one conclusion they take from this short interaction is that they must arouse that jigyasa within them
Yes.
to
Yes.
know more.
Hmm.
And I can assure you there is more to know.
Right.
We can't lead impoverished lives.
We can't. Yes.
Hatred is the result of ignorance. But lack of cultural rootedness leads to lack of civilizational identity.
Yeah.
Please understand, you all will go forward in the world
Yeah.
representing a very great civilization, Indian civilization. Don't appear as if you are not ambassadors of that civilization. Thank you so much. I must say that it was a great pleasure, and thank you so much for inviting me to the Amity Forum. I am deeply honored. Thank you.
On behalf of Amity Institute of Liberal Arts, I, Dr. Kumar Siddharth Dadwal, would like to thank Pavan Varma sir for first accepting our invitation in such a short notice from his busy schedule, taking out time and enlightening our students, faculties, and everyone present here regarding philosophy, spirituality, and Hinduism, especially in a time where politics and contemporary scenario of our society has been driven by a lot of convoluted idea of politics, culture, and religion. There, some kind of awakening is required, and I believe that Pavan Varma's work in this direction has been far more enriching. And sir, by joining us and interacting with our student today, have deepened their knowledge and also raised the level of curiosity in each of our students who are the young minds of India to think a little more in this direction. With this, I would again like to thank sir. It was a privilege to have him. And we hope that in future, someday we'll have some more session with him in our university when scenarios will be slightly different, in this Corona time. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
And
you
thanks
very
a lot.
much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.